I have two of my family members with me today, and I'm really, really excited for them to really dive deeper into the art. Not only amazing creators, multi-faceted creators, like they're so amazing, and great humans, great humans. So I'm really excited to dive into conversation and learn more about the humans that you are, learn more about the pieces, the art that you guys have in your brain and you create into reality. So to start off, can you guys introduce yourselves? Oh, well, yeah, I'm going to share with.
Oh, okay. Introduce myself now.
Yeah.
Hello, my name is Qyjon. My artist name is Qyjon the Icon, mostly because it rhymes, but also, you know, language is important. So that's how I'd like to be addressed in the artist space, you know.
My name is Emma. My artist name is the Stitchgawd. I am a textile artist. I'm mostly known for making custom jackets for like rappers and athletes, artists and things. But I also have these two large blue pieces right here. That's my work as well. So that's cross stitch as well, just big. Oh, thanks guys. Yeah, that's me.
So just because I know you guys, and I'm, again, still getting to know you guys even deeper, but we got a lot of new family. No strangers, just family we haven't met yet. For them, can you guys talk to us about, one, how long you've been on this creator's journey, and how has it helped you shape your mindset as the human in the movement space that you guys are today?
You want to go first?
You have the microphone.
Well, at the risk of sounding cheesy, you know, I've been a creator my whole life. I used to be a rapper. I've written 200 songs, and then my mentor came into my life, a 70-year-old black man. You can look him up on YouTube. He's a guru, a mystic, a psychologist. His name's Dr. Ingram. I was working with him with some children in Bolingbrook, and he let me know that the medium that I was choosing was too low of a vibration. That's what he told me. So he said, your raps and what you're talking about is up here. Rap music is like, you know, lower chakra, the boom, 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 the bass. He's like, you need to do something else. So after he told me that, I allowed my mind to come up with other things, and I decided to start doing collage work. And the reason I chose collage, other than painting and all of that, besides the necessary skills it takes to become a good painter, it takes years, is because a picture is worth 1,000 words, right? So if I take 1,000 pictures and put them together, you know what I mean, it should leave you speechless, right? That's what I was trying to do with collage, right? Because each image in itself is a story. So by all these together, making this one large narrative was what I went for. So that's, you know, my artist journey. I was this rapper around 25. I was like, all right, you're right, I gotta do something else. And luckily I've had a lot more success with this level of thought put into my artwork rather than just a 3-minute song. So that's my artist journey.
Awesome. I've been stitching for 10 or 11 years now. I fell into this completely. Like I really feel like we replicate the behaviors that we grow up with, what we see in our homes, right? And so I have parents that both have vocations or like callings. My dad's a minister and my mom is an opera singer. Those were not their original jobs. He was an environmental engineer and she was a teacher. But then they had these callings and that's what they did. So little me, I'm like, well, that's what we do as humans, right? We got to find that thing that we're supposed to be doing with ourselves, and that's what we do. And so I spent I picked up a needle for the first time when I was 27 years old, okay? Before that, I've played like 5 instruments. I had a production company. I wrote stuff. I've done a ton of things, all in service of trying to find that one thing that I'm supposed to be doing with my life. And then skip forward, I was working in corporate ticketing at the time, and my dad was a St. Louis Cardinals fan. Sorry, Chicago Cubs, I guess, but not really. And so for Christmas, it was his birthday, I surprised him with tickets to the World Series because the Cardinals were my clients, and they hooked me up. And so being an only child, you can't do that thing for your dad and then do nothing for mom. So for Christmas that year, I decided to do something that my mom had always wanted me to do, but I had always thought was outdated and terrible. All the women in my family cross-stitch, everybody except me. And I was like, well, this is not for me. This is something that you give women to occupy them so that they don't use their voices, so that they don't take action. That's what I thought of it as. And then I made this present for my mom, and I was like, you gotta be joking me with this. As it started coming out of my hands, I was like, this can't be the thing. Are you for real? Is this the thing? This is the thing? This? Cross stitch. And so I hid it from people for the first for the first year I was making it. I wouldn't change my Instagram handle. I wouldn't show people. I literally would keep this piece I was working on folded up in my purse. And sometimes I'd show people sometimes. And then once I started showing people this thing, all this crazy stuff started happening. And I was doing this in secret because I was so embarrassed of how geeky I thought it was. And I was like, nobody's gonna take me seriously. I'm like this girl who loves like rap music, and I'm making cross stitch about rap music. Like, this is not, I don't know, guys. I was really suspect of it, honestly. And then, as I said, I started showing people, and it just like all this magical stuff started happening. I did a piece with like a 3 on the back, and I put it on Twitter, and Chance the Rapper hit me up and asked me if he could wear it, and then he put it on the cover of Billboard like a month later. So when like your third piece you ever make is public like that, then I was just the girl that made jackets, you know? It was just like came with the territory. And I was like, if I have this window, if this is the thing, then I have to run with it, right? This is what I've been looking for my whole life, is like, clearly it's the stitching that I gotta do. So when I say like I had no designs on really being an artist, I really just wanted to find my purpose in the world. And then my purpose, you know, kind of presented itself to me. And then in moving around in all of these specialized areas and making all this stuff for basketball players and rappers and things like that, just being in Chicago really, my eyes started opening up to the things that were actually important, you know? And if I had this platform and if I had this gift, then it needed to be in service of something else. And so I'm still in the process of learning what exactly that means, but I do know that if I'm going to be living and making work in and about Chicago, then I need to serve the city of Chicago. And I really hope to do that in the work that I make. So that's kind of, yeah, thank you.
I feel like you kind of started touching into like what I want to ask next. At what point did you shift from creating as a hobby or an outlet to, all right, we're gonna create space for courageous conversation, or at least create a pathway or an opportunity to learn? Because we've had multiple conversations about your pieces. We've had multiple conversations, and I'm gonna be transparent. I didn't know who the brother was in the back at first. A lot of people kept saying Obama. It's not Obama, y'all. And I had to learn, and I'm glad I got to learn. So for those who don't know, this is Ben Wilson. It was a young brother who played basketball in college and was Simeon, go crazy. And high school, yeah. And he was shot, and the medical professionals rushed him to a hospital instead of the trauma center. And when he passed away, that was just like, it shifted policy change for them to now understand that we need to strategize a little better. So just creating the conversation. I'm not from Chicago myself, and to know how art can be the stepping stone to conversation. How did you guys get there?
Well, I always knew luckily I found out the importance of art at a very young age, because when I wrote my rap music, the reason I did it for so long was my friends weren't just listening to it, like it affected them. They would quote me 5 months later, 6 months later, 2 years later. So I always had a foundation since I was 15 of the importance of creativity and how powerful and impactful that can be for other people. So I always knew how you spoke about service, that my creations weren't just for me, it was for other people. Right? I knew it wasn't coming from a selfish place. I knew the power of it because sometimes my friends would go through a really stressful time and texting my lyrics at 2 in the morning. So I'm like, you was really thinking about this. You know what I mean? Like, you can't play with this, you know? So when I went into my collage work, it was similar. And the first collages that I did were about like, because I was in the military too, I was a medic in the Army. And as a medic in the Army, you get trained to respond to the most traumatic events that are, you can even fathom, right? And one of my issues when I was on social media was a lot of regular citizens don't understand, like, that's a 24-year-old man who got blown up. Like, this is a regular, I know this guy. His name's Steve. Like, it's not like the disconnect was really bothering me. So my first collages were about that, to show people, like, hey, this is actually happening right now. Because one thing that I was taught was old wars, people were drafted, right? So you didn't talk about it because it was something that people didn't want to do. But these new wars that are happening in my lifetime, I'm only 32, people chose to go. So there's like some type of valor with it, or like, you know what I mean? But no, that's not what it was like. These kids are poor with no way to get to college, and it's very difficult out here. Like, I didn't join the military just because there's obviously benefits to it. But anyway, I knew the seriousness of it, so I always went into my artwork with that level of appreciation for the impact it can have on other people. And I hope I'm still doing that to this day. If you check out my artwork, you'll see what I mean.
Yeah, I love that. As far as when the things started changing for me, my practice has always been based in like bartering, trading, gifting, whatever. And it started because I really didn't feel like I knew what I was doing. And I was like, how am I gonna be out here making something specific for some person and then being like, hey, I spent 60 hours on this. Could you give me a couple grand for it? I don't feel like that's how it works. And also with my work, it was so specific. I always make stuff for somebody. That was always my thing. And so there has been this shift for me from like individual investment or give it, you know, whatever it is, to like communal. And honestly, it just came, I'm a researcher at heart. When I start any project, anything, it's research that I do first. When I moved to Chicago, oh gosh, like 11 or 12 years ago now, the first thing I did was read every single piece I could on Chicago, poets, history, you name it. When I went to my first Bulls game, I then read like 4 or 5 books about the Chicago Bulls, one entirely on triangle defense. I didn't even know you could write a whole book about that. And so I research, and just even in researching in this city and learning about the history of it, inherently, the history of the city is, the history of systemic oppression. The history of the city is the history of America. I always say Chicago is the most American city. It has the best of what America has to offer and the absolute worst of what America has to offer is all right here. You can find it. And so once I started to understand my environment a little more, once I did more research, once I read, my mind just like blossomed, opened, changed. I went to the DuSable History Museum, and I saw the door that was the entrance to the Black Panther Party. It's in Kerry James Marshall private collection, which is crazy. He's an artist, and if I ever meet Kerry James Marshall, I'm going to ask him how he got, the Black Panther door. But I saw the Black Panther door, and it's riddled with gunshots. And I was reading about Chairman Fred Hampton, and it was 99 rounds were shot into the apartment, and 1 was shot out. And then seeing it in person, it just like it just did something really profound to me, and changed the way that I like looked at the world. And so I decided that this feeling, I had to have it with me, and I had to carry it with me in my work. And so it's what led to the bigger pieces like this. That was very intentional. I always say, I feel like I say this a lot, but in the course of my research, I read a lot of abolitionist literature as well. And there's this abolitionist writer named Toni Cade Bambara, and she says that the role of the artist is to make revolution irresistible. And when I read that, I was like, well, now I know what it is. Now I know what my mission can be. I need to make the revolution irresistible. And part of that is literally a place of knowledge exchange. Like for me, lots of people know who Chairman Fred Hampton is. His politics are as important now as they ever have been, and as relevant. And so for the people who understand Chairman Fred's story, I wanted this piece to be a place of like memorial. And that's why it's blue and velvet, because I want it to be soft and a place that you could come and just be with it easily. I didn't want it to be shocking and horrible. The story is shocking and horrible. The President of the United States went after a 21-year-old man and drugged him first in his sleep because of the fear of what his voice could do for people. So I wanted it to be a place that could hold that, but then for people who maybe didn't know about Chairman Fred, because I started this way before the movie was made. There was a prolonged time where people wouldn't even bring him up because of how relevant the situation is, how the politics haven't changed. And so I wanted it to be a place where people could learn about him if they didn't know, and then a soft place for people to go that did know, but wanted to remember him as well. So my artwork and its mission has changed in a multitude of ways over many years in various different, but yeah, I would say seeing Chairman Fred Hampton, the door to the Black Panther Party was like the really big catalyst of change for me.
I was just gonna say, if you guys hear something that you just rock with, this we just throwing energy into the room. Brother Qyjon, we spoke a few times about being represented in spaces that don't necessarily welcome the type of art that you bring, that you offer. And for a lot of people who are new to the movement spaces, I hear this quote, man, I didn't even know spaces like this existed. This gallery, I didn't know that spaces like this existed. Healthy Hood, yeah. I didn't know spaces like this existed. Can you share with us some experiences or challenges that you faced being in those rooms and the importance of creating spaces that allow you to amplify your message and your art?
You got to ask me the second part of the question was. Could you repeat the second part?
So can you
the amplify question?
I'm sorry, this is all off the dome, y'all. Help highlight some of the challenges that you faced and the importance of creating those spaces so that you can amplify the messages in your art.
Well, I don't know how many of you guys have been in that room with my artwork, with the Trayvon Martin and the George Floyd collage, and the with the 2 feet with the slave foot and the foot with the ankle monitor. But a lot of times I get pushback because it's something that people don't want to look at. And once again, I've been trained to look at what people don't want to look at. I've been conditioned to do this to the point where, this is how I know I got to go to bed, all right? I'm like doing a collage, and I'm like, where the fuck is that body part? Where the fuck is that? I'm like, yeah, it's time to go to bed, right? But I'm looking for these things to showcase, right, the negative aspects of society and humanity that we don't want to repeat, right? I'm not doing this because it's fun for me. I'm doing this because you need to know that policy you thought was making you so safe ruined millions of lives. You need to know that. You need to know that. And you don't need to know that in a fun movie that you watch. No. We're going to turn these fucking sirens on, and I want you to look at this shit right now. You know what I mean? I'm not afraid of it. I also had no choice. And the challenge that I've faced, and this is what gets me really I won't say upset, but it just makes me, if you wonder why some of that stuff is so precise, it's because I want you to tell me no because you don't fucking like it. Don't tell me no because it's not good, because they'll love to dismiss you. Oh, well, it's not professional enough, right? They use this intellectual language to dismiss how black the art is, right? So I got to be so precise and so well-spoken and deliver it so well that you just don't like what I'm showing you, right? And I'm getting a little bit of motion in that direction because people are appreciating at least I'm not coming at it just fully emotional and angry. I can articulate the full thought to bring everybody in. But I was going somewhere with that. You said, the challenge I face is not that it's not good, it's that the people up here don't really care that much about what that is. Does that make sense what I'm saying? Right? So Naperville Art Gallery, this is the tricks that they play. They'll let you in, but then when they took photos of the artwork, they forgot to take a photo of my art piece. You see, because if you take a photo of what I made, I might win the competition, or when you put out your advertisements, you don't want to put this necessarily on the advertisement, which I understand. Maybe you don't want to put some of that on the but you know what I mean? But they'll let you in because it is good, but, And then as far as trying to make spaces for it, what I will say is a lot of the times we're looking for institutions or other people to create spaces for us, even though we know that it's like an abusive relationship. Like, you can't ask the person who beat you up to then help me pay my rent. They beat you up, you know what I mean? So going forward, why I'm so happy I met Alan and Tanya and I've been welcomed to the Healthy Hood space is because I don't have those barriers, and we are creating spaces like this, right, where we can have a Fred Hampton piece up, we can have a Trayvon Martin piece, and it's not Black History Month. Because my phone will not stop ringing in February, but March, they're like, hey, man, we don't really got space for that Trayvon Martin piece. But for February, they want me because it's a novelty act. And before I move on, I would like to express something that I have to say while I have you guys' attention about artwork and black art. And you heard me say this before, but I've repeated it 100 times. artwork is the highest form of thought, right? Because the highest form of thought in your mind right now is a metaphor, right? You can't think higher than metaphor. If you hear anybody talk about their life, a philosopher, a scientist, an engineer, they're going to explain it in a metaphorical way. That's as highest as we can get. Artwork is an externalization of a metaphor, you see, right? So when it comes to the highest form of thought, right, artwork being the externalization of that, black people are kept from that level. You understand? That's why you don't see black images in black art that much. You see the Mona Lisa, you see Picasso, you see that, but you don't see black people operating at that level because the black mind is not respected at that level. Do you understand what I'm saying? So that's another challenge I face is who do you think you are to operate at the highest level given to us as human beings? Who the fuck are you? You know what I mean? Like, no, honestly, and I'm okay with it because I understand because even other black people are like, who do you think you are? It's like, this is a masterpiece and it does cost $5,000 and I'm not changing my mind. Who do you think you are? You know, so it happens, you know. So there's a lot of different challenges, psychological barriers, structural barriers, and things of that nature. But you got to fight the good fight. You know what I mean? You might get on to 80, you might get on to 18. It's all up to God. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
You want me to speak to spaces and challenges? Well, as far as space goes, I just try to be aware of my presence in it, especially in a lot of communities that I'm in Chicago. And I try to be helpful in whatever space that I'm in. It goes back to like a service thing. As far as challenges, a lot of my work is not about you know, history, intellectualism, revolution, you know, all these things. A lot of my work is about the Chicago Bulls and, you know, pop culture. And people love pop culture. That's what they pay you for. But the other stuff, not so much. You know, I faced a challenge recently speaking out on my views of Palestine, free Palestine, by the way. I said that to somebody like, which side are you on? I was like, liberation. That's the side that I'm on. I lost a big contract with like a dream client, but like, it wasn't for me. And I don't want to be in those spaces where like they would try to stifle my voice like that. So I mean, those are petty challenges, right? I lose a job for the way that I think about things. But also, these things are very expensive. It takes a lot of money to make art. It's very expensive to be an artist. So that balance, I don't even think that exists. But it is a challenge, certainly, because these kind of works are harder for corporations to stomach, and corporations run our country. So that's my challenge, but that's all of our challenge, isn't it?
Really quick, before we ask the next question, can y'all make some noise for them? I love it. I want to ask, as you guys continue to move on in your creative journey, in spaces where you revolutionize minds through creation, what is something that you now carry as a tool that you didn't have as a young person? Maybe advice to a young person who is just starting off in the creation in any aspect, whether it's music or any form, any medium. But what is some advice that you can give them?
The advice I would give a young creator is that through creation is where you find yourself, right? So the only time I've actually had to be brave, and I know I was being brave, right? I'm not acting tough to impress Alan. I'm not doing this because she's here, right? I'm actually doing this because I'm actually taking this risk right now. It's through my artwork, right? If you look at, there's an art piece back there with the two hands. Each one of those hands is like $180. And it takes 8 weeks to get those hands. Those are custom-made hands from a guy who makes special effects. He makes zombie movies when people get blown up. He makes all the bits for the movies and all that, right? Fixating those hands together, that's a big risk for me. Because if I break one, I gotta wait 8 more weeks, and I gotta pay $180 more, and just, you know what I mean? But at 4 in the morning when I'm working on my artwork, I gotta take that risk. I don't have no choice, right? And then I had to drip it looks like blood drippings, right? I had to do that in a very precise way and not cover up certain aspects of the artwork. That takes bravery, but it's just me and myself, you understand? So through creativity, if you're making music, you can say it one way, and you might get more radio play, or you can say it the other way and speak the fucking truth, you see? So when you venture off into being a real creator, the ultimate fight that you're gonna face is, am I doing this for attention or for recognition? And when I say that, I mean, you can get attention for anything. I'm gonna say this, and I want you to remember that Qyjon, the icon, said this. I think that Sexy Red is a weapon against the black community, and I want her abolished immediately. I think that there is no way whatever, but she's getting attention. You understand? She's making a lot of money. Is that what you want to be remembered for? You know what I mean? But recognition is completely different, right? So if you're a young creator, right, you're gonna be facing yourself over and over and over and over again. And as that relationship matures, hopefully your artwork matures with it, hopefully it gets better, and you're not afraid to confront yourself at the end of the day. Because at the end of the day, that's what we all should be doing, is continuously confronting ourselves, holding ourselves accountable, and pushing ourselves to the highest level, right? So yeah.
As far as advice, I was just gonna say rigid discipline. I mean, it's the same kind of thing, you know, like you have to be continuously learning, growing, getting better, and being self-effacing and understanding what your shortcomings are and what you need to work on. I mean, I feel I've been doing this for 11 years, and I feel like brand new all the time. I feel like there's so much left to learn. There's so much more of my craft to get better at. There's so many places to go, and it's going to take rigid discipline for me to get there. You know, there's a lot of stuff I have to go without. There's a lot of stuff that I just have to, I have to be rigid in routine, and I have to be honest with self, and those things they sound simple, but they're very difficult. Yeah.
For sure.
So I have a question from my sister, Kristen. She couldn't be here today, but she sent it in. After I ask this question, I do want to open up to you guys. If you have any questions for the creators, I would love for you guys to definitely ask that. Art has the potential to provoke strong emotions and reactions. How do you handle the potential controversy and discomfort that may arise from addressing oppressive systems in your work?
How do I handle the pressures of, what was it?
How do you handle the potential controversy and discomfort that may arise from addressing oppressive systems in your work?
Well, me, this is going to come up, Alan. I know you're sick of me saying it, but I'm currently on my way to get my doctorate in criminal justice. So with that being said, I come fully prepared to have any intellectual debate you think you want to have with me, because a lot of, there's levels to the game. So I have the experience of a black person in America. So obviously from the emotional standpoint, I'm gonna understand why they're, breaking down the walls and snatching TVs and stuff. I get that on the emotional level, but also intellectually speaking, I can tell you why the policy was completely flawed and should never have been voted in, and who benefited from it in X, Y, and Z. So I just come prepared, right? So I'm not just this fly-by-night artist who's loosey-goosey, who just wants to paint in my studio and da-da-da, but doesn't understand what it means. It's all precise, it all has meaning, I mean all of it, and any argument you wanna have, I'm willing to have it, and as well, not just have it for the sake of being contentious, but to bring you to another level of awareness. You get what I'm saying? I'm not just, I don't use my education to put myself in a better position, or I don't use my education as a way to just, they call it intellectual masturbation, right? I don't just do it to be like, you know what I mean? It's like to use it, right? Like one thing I learned, was a couple of things I learned that I love sharing with people, but like, remember the 3 strikes law in California? Right? If you read the speeches about that, you're like, you know what, that's a great idea. Like, who wouldn't think that was gonna fail, right? But the practicality of how that played out was one of the worst, most egregious uses of money ever. They ended up having to build like 17 new prisons to house people who did petty theft. Petty theft, but the way they spoke about it was like, we're gonna get rid of who? Murderers, rapists, and who's the third one they always mention? No, they didn't say drug dealers. We're gonna get rid of murderers, rapists, and the one whatever. That's okay, but if you wanna talk about the oppressive, that was a system of oppression for drug dealers. So you sell drugs one time, you steal something a second time, but what are the chances you're gonna get a good job with 2 felonies? So you're gonna end up doing something else, right? So you're gonna end up going to jail. Come on, like, you know what I mean? So I am ready for any debate when it comes to things I put in my artwork, you know what I mean? And I can show you the data, the whatever you need to see. So that's, at least I just come prepared, I guess.
Can I ask a follow-up question? Yes. So as do you feel like it's a learning process for you as you're creating the art just as much as like do you find yourself down a rabbit hole when you're like, man, I wanna dive into this, but
The rabbit hole, you'd be surprised. This is another thing that I learned, right? You'd be surprised. The rabbit hole is not through the artwork. The rabbit hole is actually through the scholarly work, because we think that the scholars run things. Politicians absolutely do not listen to scholars at all. There is people, and this is what makes me not as angry and why I'm willing to have conversations and educate, because scholars said from the beginning, 3 strikes all stupid. There was barely any of them who were like, that's a great idea. War on drugs, dumb. Every scholar from the criminal justice world was saying it's a bad idea. But the politicians were able to sell it to people who hate black people and Mexican people, right? It was an easy sell to give votes. It's all economic. It had nothing to do with practicality, right? Anybody knows that spending $100,000 to put somebody in a box for 10 years, when they were on the streets, they were only making $20K, makes no sense. It makes no sense, and every scholar was saying that. So the rabbit hole actually is from a scholarly work. The artwork just puts a stamp on what I already know, you know what I mean? But the scholarly work would be like, you knew this in 1989? Like, it's shocking. You're like, you knew this in 1996? Like, why did we do that anyway? And then you're like, who said we should do that? And then you find out they own this, they own that, he got stock in that. Oh, okay, now I get it, you know what I mean? So.
I don't even know how to follow that, because like you have to know what your artwork is speaking about so that you can speak to it also. I mean, I feel like I've been pretty lucky. People haven't come at me too crazy about any of the things that I've done, but also I think people are like, oh, you did that? First, I think that kind of shakes them from coming at me with anything crazy, but also like the way that I present my artwork, the way that I present myself is to always be open and learning, and I really try to hold that empathy and openness for people who maybe have that reaction when they see something that I've done or something that I say. Because decolonizing your mind is a lifelong pursuit, and we're not even given the language to be able to begin doing it. So you have to meet people somewhere so that we can even have a conversation. And so yes, I could talk all day about Ben Wilson and Chairman Fred Hampton, but also I think their presentation is soft. You know what I mean? Like how much can the story of like a young man with passion for his people, how much can that offend you for real? Yeah. You know? And so when you come with somebody with that energy, like how are they going to come back at you crazy? You know what I mean? I find it harder on the internet because people just say whatever they want because there's no real engagement and conversation there. So I find, people say crazy stuff to me on the internet all the time, but in person, not so much. And I'm always down for a discussion. You have to be.
At this time, I want to open it up to the crowd. Does anybody have any questions for our creators? Come on,
I'm that boring. You're like, this loser. Get him off the stage.
Hello. My name is Sky. I have a question for you.
Yes.
So your collages, are they like puzzles? Like intellectual puzzles for people to put the pieces together of the story? Like, do they paint a story?
Well, they definitely paint a story. I wouldn't describe them as puzzles, but the intent of me creating the collages is to put things in a manner for people who can't read those difficult documents, or put pictures to the emotionality that you're experiencing, right? So for me, it's not a puzzle per se, but there is a collective narrative that I'm trying to depict. Like if you look at the George Floyd piece, I was trying to depict everything that we lose when an unarmed black man dies. Right, so at the foundation, I have African iconography, right? Just pictures of people in African tribes, African masks, this deep, rich history of black people. And then you go up, and I'm only gonna go for the main parts. You have to see it yourself. There's like 1,000 pictures, but at the gut is the main part for me, right? Because I got a picture of Tupac, and I got a picture of Biggie, but in the middle, I have this huge African mask, right? And I put that there to depict, if you remember, right? Oh, sorry, let me backtrack. From the east to the west, they want you hating yourself on American soil if you're black, They don't want you to love yourself, identify with who you really are, the power within you. Although the black body is the most profitable thing that's ever come into humanity, right? They don't want you looking at yourself in that manner. But if you can remember in your gut that you're African, all that ceases. You understand? There'll be no beef between you and the next man as you realize that's really my brother. You understand? So that's what I try to depict through my collages, is that type of narrative, right? Things of that nature. So each collage has some reoccurring theme within it. I wouldn't say a puzzle because I'm not really here to make you sit there and just, you know what I mean? Because that's, who wants to do that, right? I want you to feel something, understand something about yourself, and have a different level of awareness or different feeling when you're done engaging with the piece. You know what I mean? Oh.
So you said when you started you were making jackets, and so in that you were working for like companies and organizations, and you were making designs for them, or were they giving you? Okay, because that's not the question. Because what I'm trying to ask is like, you said that you were in a transition, or you were like your art has been transitioning through time.
Yes.
And is the way, I guess I'm wondering, what way has it been transitioning? Are you like creating more personal art that you are then putting on things, or like how are you, please?
Well, no, I'm picking up what you're putting down. I appreciate the question. For me, for the first, 5 or 6 years of my art career, I was reflecting back my reaction to somebody, like a specific thing. So it'd be like the refraction of somebody else through me. That's what I was making. And then someone posited to me, they're like, what would it mean if you just made your things, the thing that you think about? And I didn't know what that. I was like, don't ask me that. It was too scary. It was too scary a question, But and so that's really been the journey. Is like, what does it mean when I'm not just simply making something for somebody? Because that's where all the money that I make from collaborations, brand work, whatever, is usually is just me refracting what I see back to them. But what does it mean when I'm just making the thing? What do I want to talk about? What is my art for? And that floored me. And I'm still in the pursuit of what my artwork looks like when it's just in service of, whatever I imbue it with, instead of being for specifically somebody else. Yeah.
Thank you.
To speak to what you're talking about, by the way, which thank you for that. One of the things that is really bothering me and what motivates me to do what I'm planning on doing going forward is how much they take from us, right? So if you look at that, I put the Harold's bag in there on one of my art pieces, right? And I put the Newport cigarettes and all those, right? These are not positive things, but it's something that all of us know, but there's no commercials for it. Does that make sense what I'm saying? Everybody's enjoyed Harold's, but there's no commercial for it. You know what I mean? And I know that maybe at the end of the day, the owners of Harold's are probably not black, but it's still something within our culture that I just don't want it to be forgotten that this was ours. Does that make sense what I'm saying? And a lot of things are like that. It's just forgotten that this is ours. Like, it's just completely forgotten, done away with. You know what I mean? So that is important to me. So I'm thank you for saying that.
So you both talked about doing other. Hey, Chelsea. doing other things that, like, you were on another path. like both of you talk about on another path, you're doing other things, and then art kind of came to you, like you switched over mediums, you switched over what you were doing. Is there any point in time that on this journey you were like, no, I don't want to do this. I'm ready to go back and do something else. And with that, what pushed you forward in continuing on your journey on a path that you are at today?
Yes, all the time. All the time, because it gets difficult with the money, it gets difficult with the materials, and I don't know what you make, but sometimes I cut my hands, I get like splinters and just crazy stuff, and sometimes you're Googling stuff at such a high level, Google is like, yo, go to fucking sleep, yo. Like, I'm like, human torso, but half, like, you know what I mean? Like, Google's like, yo, dude, listen, bro, go to bed, like, you know. But then, you know, like me, I live in an art studio, right? And 3 of those pieces in there are 5 years old. Now, the other ones are more recent. But when I made them 5 years ago, no one knew who I was at all, right? I had to pull, there's a clock in there that I pulled out of my art studio. It's been sitting there collecting dust. So when you make something and no one cares to see it or no one's asking about it, it is difficult to keep yourself motivated, right? But what keeps me motivated is when the people who do see it, right, when they have an emotional reaction to it, right? Because that clock, my friend saw it after it was a year old. He came to my house, and he was like, what the fuck is that? I was like, oh, it's a grandfather clock for the war on drugs. And he was like, yo, man, that's like scary. Now, hear me out, right? That's a compliment to me as an artist, because do you know how much media you consume? Who has Netflix account? Who has a Hulu account? Who has HBO Max? Who has the right? So for him to have consumed that much content in his life, and I was still able to invoke an emotion from a still image or an art piece, right? I know I'm doing the right thing. So that gives me 6 more months of motivation, because maybe I can drag out even more emotion the next time, right? I don't always want it to be fear, but shock, awe, surprise, whatever it is. So that's what motivates me, is when I do finally see those reactions and things of that nature.
Oh, I be wanting to give up all the time. But this is gonna sound corny and cliche, but I, in understanding that this is like my mission here on Earth, like, it behooves me to stick with it. You know, like, this is clearly what I'm here to do. Now the big problem is figuring out what it is exactly and how, you know, and these works are explorations of that, you know. And because of the way that things have unfolded in this journey for me, as I said, I had never picked up a needle before I was 27, and I thought to myself, if 2 Chainz can start as Titty Boy and then become 2 Chainz in his late 20s, then Emma McKee can become the Stitchgawd. You know what I'm saying? And so, like, all the crazy turn of events let me know that this is not me. You know, I am just a vessel. And, like, I need to figure out how to best be used as a vessel, and that is really, like, the study, you know? Yeah. So that's what keeps me going. It is, there's, like, a lot of really cool silver linings to being an artist, you know, but it's also really, 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 really difficult. And I would say I'm, like, mid-career, you know, I've done a lot of big stuff, and it's still really, really hard. And a big part of being an artist is literally just keeping going while other people don't. Is like staying on the wheel. That's it. Oh.
No other questions?
Y'all sick of us yet?
I actually want to share. Last week was the opening of the gallery. Oh my gosh! And we had an open mic. A lot of young creators came and shared. There's a lot of revolutionary music too. It was just, oh, man, our young people are crazy. It's so amazing. I ended up stopping and having a conversation with this brother, man, and he shared a really, really interesting opinion with me. It's after he walked through the entire gallery, and the reason I say interesting is I didn't agree with it. And that's okay. I'm the type of person that is one of my capital T truths that as humans, we're not here to agree with each other, just to understand. With more understanding, we would really get a lot done. This brother said that he believes in order to have true peace, and the reason I'm saying this is I would like to know your opinion on it as well. And I want to open it up to the crowd. I would love to know your guys' opinion. The brother said, in order to achieve true peace, we would need to be in a space where those images are no longer needed, nor relevant, nor need to be seen. Now, for me, I don't agree with it because I feel like that's also the context of erasing our history, the shameful versus painful idea of it. And when he broke it down, I understand you, and I don't agree. But I wanna open up to you guys because I wanna dive more into that idea. Why, if you don't agree with it, why? And if you do agree with it, why?
He's for that young man. There's a thing that happens, right? And this is
If this adds anything to the context, the brother was African.
yeah.
Okay, I just wanna let you know.
No, it doesn't matter because it's a problem with a lot of human beings. The reason that I look at the depths and I go through the old textbooks and I'm looking for these images is because there's an inherent belief in individual people that everybody is good, right? On an individual basis, not in a group, each person is like, well, people are good, right? No matter if they're flawed, they could be a complete psychopath, but they're gonna say, well, most people are good because we don't want to believe in pure hatred. You don't want to believe in pure brutality. You don't want to, right? This is why they have to write a whole textbook about it. That's why they have to have documentaries about it, because you would never look for that on your own. You would never look for that on your own, right? So he's probably speaking from an individualistic standpoint, like, well, I would never lock up 1 million people for selling weed and then legalize it 30 years later. He's probably thinking like that because he would never do something like that. It's really incomprehensible, right? And there's a book I read, just a suggestion for you guys. It's called Moral Man, Immoral Society. And he breaks down what I'm talking about. On an individual level, if you grab a random person, they're gonna be nice to you. It's when they become a Mexican. Now they have contention with you. It's when they become an Arab or when they become a Hindu. Now my ideology is different because you're confronting me and my group, you see. To get back to what he was saying, on the individual level, he's not realizing that. Before I hand up the mic, you said the images, why the image is important. The images are important so that we don't repeat it, right? I've looked at thousands of images of the Holocaust, them carting the bodies, the malnourished grown men, all those things. I've looked at a lot of feminist work too, a lot of women working in the 50s or the old Housewives and all those magazines and stuff. I looked at a lot of that. If you read some of that shit is wild. It's like, why would you, no one was having fun, you know what I mean? But it reminds me of things that we don't want to repeat. So you need images because you can't argue with the image. Documents can be deleted, documents can be augmented, and we have AI now, which we'll talk about that some other day. But those images from the old books can't be manipulated or misconstrued. These are human beings. This is subjugation. This is what it looks like, right? So he is probably just a good-hearted man who's like, people aren't evil. And yeah, on an individual basis, absolutely not. It's when they get in groups, and those groups become states, and those states become nations, and those nations gonna fight for resources. That's when the evilness comes in, right? Because you're trying to protect your homeland, your nation, your tribe, your people, your hood, right? Humans think this way, right? So he doesn't want to see these images, and I get it, because he's a nice guy. But ask him if you see him again, okay, but if they came to take over your block, how would you think? Would you not want to see your images of that or whatever to prevent it from happening or whatever? So that's my answer to that. It happens. And that's one of my motivations for making artwork as brutal as I make, because they don't want to see the cop grabbing somebody. You don't want to see it, but here it is. You know what I mean? This is what's happening. You know what I mean? If I don't show that, that's not that bad. It's that bad. You know what I mean? But that's just my opinion.
Well, I was just going to say one of the ways that the colonizer colonizes is to disenfranchise people from their own history, which we know in this country is true. Those black and white photos are not from that long ago, but we think of them, we're disenfranchised from them, we're distanced from them on purpose. This is the American project. This is on purpose. So I think that it's foolish to not bring the things that have happened to light always, you know? It's not creating the problem, it's just shining light on what's already there. And it's really bad for us. Human beings, when stuff is out of sight, it's really out of mind. 100%. So it needs to be right here sometimes, almost all the time. So yeah, I mean, it's an idyllic thought that we wouldn't need that, but like clearly we need it, you know?
In addition to that, by the way, I know we got a lot of black people in the room. I wish he was here, because one of the only reasons that the civil rights movement had any traction was when the dogs were biting the black children. Because internationally, they were like, look, we don't fuck with that, right? When they were hitting young adult black men with the water hose, psychologically, he's a grown man, he knows the laws, it's segregated. You can kind of, he knew better. When it's a kid, the world was like, y'all gotta fix that. And America's image was tainted so harshly, they had to do something. So he has no idea the power of imagery, right? And when you look at those pictures, most of those pictures that still get circulated every now and then are of the dogs on the kids, right? Not only that, I had a teacher, her name was Miss Jackson, and what the parents did back then, and it's hard to find images of this because it's that bad, but all the kids went to jail one day. It was like 100 black kids went to the protest because the parents had to go to work, blah, 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 blah. How do you explain locking up 100 children for protesting, right? And there's images of this, I forgot the name of it, it's missing me. But my point is, that was on the news, and after that, a lot of laws changed because that imagery was so powerful, and it made America look so backwards and just asinine that you can't act like this world superpower when you can't even treat children correctly. Because children are in a separate category for most highly functioning people. That's a kid. They have no concept of the bullshit you're trying to do. You know what I mean? So he's completely there. He's call him.
Get him back
Or
in
give
here.
him my number and have him come and we'll hang out.
Does anybody want to touch in their thoughts about it?
Hi, my name is Adiro. I just have a separate question. So the work that you all do is pretty heavy. So how do you maintain your mental health and care practices?
How do I maintain my mental health? Well, I don't know. It's hard to explain because my general disposition, I'm just a serious person. So I never like partying, or I don't drink, I don't smoke. So, I guess I feel like if I didn't create, I would go crazy. So it's like my outlet, you know what I mean? And I'm all right so far. No psych meds, no therapist, you know what I mean? But it does get heavy, like making the art piece with the feet. Like I cried, like a lot, just because it's like, see, I can cry now thinking about it because it's like, damn, they fucking cut his fucking foot off. Like, I can feel that shit, you know what I mean? And then making a George Floyd piece, like I cried, because like when I put the bullets on the American flag is when I cried, because it's like, fuck, man, like, it's a lot, you know what I mean? But it's a release. So like, I get to release through my artwork, you know what I mean? And then, so at least for me, I guess I'll just say I've been lucky that it's not like, it makes me go crazy, and I get to get it out through the artwork, you know what I mean? But it is heavy, and it does weigh on me, and it increases my obligation to make more art. Right. Now, if I lose my hands or my eyesight, then I think my mental health would just, you know what I mean? Like, so, because I know I'm dependent on creation. I know that. I can fully say that, you know what I mean? So at least that's my answers to that question,
Yeah, no, I'd say something very similar. Like the creation of things is my reaction, my mental health. It is a manifestation of that's how I deal with those things, I feel like I'm doing something and that makes me feel better. But beyond that, I meditate like 45 minutes a day. I work out like 6 times a week. Like when I talk about like rigid discipline, that's a big part of it because this world is very sharp.
Yeah.
It is like a really weird time to be alive and be a human being. And I feel like all artists we're sensitive. I feel like we're like human beings' nerve endings. Like we feel the things a lot and first and the most, and then we make the things so that when everybody else gets there, they can also process those things through the stuff that we've made. So it's a blessing and a curse, right? Like we're supposed to feel these things so that we can do what we do, which like it's necessary for humanity. The arts are so necessary. It's how we teach children how to deal with feelings. It's how we teach people to have humanity is through the arts. And so, yeah, rigid discipline and then also making art about the things that really get to me. But then I'll also say like being in community is a really big important piece for me because a lot of visual artists, solo dolo, a lot of the time in our cribs making stuff. And I really rely on my community because without them, my mental health would suffer. Even Healthy Hood and you and Tanya and Chelsea and, having all these pockets in the city, it really holds me down in a really important way. And then also movement people there are very serious movement people, but I would say that movement people in general are like very funny, and because the nature of the work is so heavy, I feel like there's like an inherent and needed lightness that comes with the work as well, because there's so much joy in doing it together. Wouldn't you say? Yeah.
First of all, thank you guys so much for just your knowledge, like everything that you said thus far. Simple question. In this like new generation or social media era, how do you as artists determine your worth when like the society, they kind of try to tell us our worth so much? So it's like, how do you determine your worth in a society that tells you your worth, you know, and combat that?
Well, that's before social media even existed. You know, I've been a nigga a long time. So, every black person I think comes to a moment where you gotta be like, am I what they say I am, or am I me? You see. So when I say I've been a nigga a long time, I use that language because that's what it is. You know what I mean? Like I remember when I thought that was all that was available to me. So my self-worth was built way before social media. And social media is, for the most part, for about 80% of people, it's false. I don't care how many likes or retweets or whatever, it's not really real, right? So I give no credence to social media, especially because in the art space, there's artists right now with 500 followers, and he's worth $5 million, and he just sold an art piece for $500,000. And he posts once every 3 months, or she, right? So in the art space, you see that it really has no relevance at all. And I feel like if you're a black person and you reach any level of consciousness, you immediately have to build your own self-worth from the bottom up. Because if you don't do it yourself, you'll just be beat down over and over and back to Sexy fucking Red. You'll be beat down over and over. Like, is this who I'm supposed to act like? Is this what you know what I mean? Anyway, yeah. All I want to say is, look, hear me out. If there were 7 black people at a board meeting, right, highly functioning board meeting level CEO people, are they spitting out Sexy Red for the community? Are they gonna? No. I'm not getting into that. I'm saying would they choose her? Because my thing is this: it's not us who chooses Sexy Red. If there was Sexy Red in the intellectual version, I'd be okay with it. But every year you come out with a new person who degrades our image. Mix it up. I don't care about. I love Megan Thee Stallion. Don't think I'm a respect. I 100% agree. Then why don't we have a scientist who's a smart black lady that pushed on us as well? If you can name one black girl who's in her 20s, equivalent to Sexy Red, who's pushed on us, I'll be quiet. I'll leave right now. I'll give you $100. They push a certain image of us, which is why your self-worth has to be built on you. They push a certain image on us, right? Because you can name another Sexy Red and another one, right? I won't get on that. I won't be argumentative. It just bothers me that there's no duality. I don't care. Be whatever you want to be. I like it. The music is not horrific. It's the image that's continuous. Because I'm noticing it over and over and over. Like, you guys don't all have to shake ass. It's okay. Some of you guys can be something else. You know what I mean?
Well, we can take
We-
multitudes. We could do both.
Okay, where is the scientist girl? I just want one. I just want one. Just one. I just want one.
It's like if
Where are they at? Are they as popular? No. Are they as popular,
think maybe-
or are they pushed on us the way Sexy Red has been pushed?
I think when we talk about, that's what I was. Come on.
Respectfully, though, when do you see your image fed back to you on mainstream media? Where? No, the
So the outlets is your.
no. The question was in the mainstream media. I see it in mainstream media. My question, ma'am, is where? Has anybody heard of Black Women Talk Tech? But everybody else has heard of Sexy Red. You understand? So even if I agree with you, I believe you. I mean, like, I exist. I believe you. My problem is that it's not promoted as heavily
Amplified.
as the intellectualized black people. That's fine.
It's to be understood, and that's why I like building the container
I'm
like
not
this.
upset.
It's very. Come on,
Yeah.
come on.
I could bring up the black male rappers as well, because I don't like NBA YoungBoy either. I don't like any of it, because we don't choose it. I don't like anything for black people that we don't choose. Yes. I've said other things. Yeah. You're taking personal offense, which I respect. I don't know you. I met you today. And you can. Of course. I have no personal vendetta or. No, I have no personal investment in the argument. I know that whenever I see that person's face, I press not interested on my algorithm, and I know that it keeps coming up, and it bothers me.
And it's not to agree with each other. Yeah. It's to be understood. You feel me? But like you said, all of us, each of you have a black experience, and y'all allowed to be whatever black experience y'all want to be, period. And if that's not what you agree with, that's cool. We don't agree with it. She doesn't agree with it. If that's not what you agree with, cool. He don't agree with it. And I do want to tap in and just say, as far as like the imagery, I get what you're saying as far as the males. Like, we look at all the artists on the radio catalog, and I would say that that doesn't represent the lifestyle that a lot of us live. I'm a chairman of a community center in a black and brown neighborhood, and all the kids that come in, bulk of my kids that come in that have to deal with the crazy disparities at home, dodging the things that they have to dodge at home, still wouldn't say that the music on the radio represents their lifestyle. And when given very little to subscribe to, what do we subscribe to? I completely understand that. You feel me? I feel you. Are those channels that, because I've definitely seen spaces that amplify greatness. You feel me? Greatness. And spaces that have empowered me as a black young man to be the best man that I could be. Yeah. I don't find those spaces amplified as much as the negativity, and I do agree with that. When we talk about what controls media, when we talk about these cell phones, Instagram, TikTok, and the powers that be, a lot of the times we don't control them. And if we wait on them to do it, we're not gonna like the way they do it. And if we do it, I mean, 9 times out of 10, we don't collect together. I believe that we are not as divided as we are disconnected. A lot of us just don't have conversation. And we drink the Kool-Aid. We believe that we're unsafe looking at each other or walking past each other, or, I don't know this nigga, so I'm walking past the street, I don't know if I'm safe or not. Like, we've created these agreements that we've almost signed off on our culture in so many different ways. So I did want to, like, because y'all was over here sword fighting, and y'all was sword fighting. I saw the swords. I saw it.
I got poked a little bit.
I love it, though. I love it.
Those that did cause the harm and speak freely, so I try to keep it not too much on the forefront, but I try to use it as a like leverage of like, this is what I was brought up, you know what I'm saying, just to remind myself, like, nothing to shame myself of the past, but it's just the fact that this is what made me become who I am. So the brother that made his response to that way is only part. I'm not saying I'm agree with him, but I'll say I can see why he probably said it in that way of like that was the past, and if some kind of it's like it was a past in a sense, you know what I'm saying? So I can see why him responding in that way, nothing to shame his people. It was just like I am where I'm at right now. You feel me? And this is just to make my people feel even more better to what they need to be feeling. Because if they was to be so down in the past, it could kind of derail them in the sense of like you need to be stuck here rather than make it up here type shit.
I'm married recently, and I have 4 children. Come on. We have 4 kids, and we don't spank our kids. I refuse to say gentle parents, but I refuse to say gentle parents because I do raise my voice, and to me it's not gentle. I'm sorry. But I use, and I'm connecting it to you, but my wife is big on like, maybe we should not yell at them like that. And I'm like, girl, I used to get spanked. That's like my justification. I used to get my ass whooped. And because of like me using that imagery, like I'm doing so much better. Do you get what I'm saying? Like I'm justifying me yelling because of the imagery. You get what I'm saying? So like, when I think of her justification, like how she's putting it, that's when I'm like, okay, I kind of get bro. Like, I get him. Yeah. We're justifying certain things, like, because I get it. And how are we going to know? How are we going to, like you said, how are we going to know about any of these things? And when I think about, like, our organization, Healthy Hood, Chicago, we're modeled after the Black Panther Party. And like understanding that we're modeled after them, we had to do so much research and understand like our ancestors made a lot of mistakes. And for us to learn from those mistakes, we have to know about them. You get what I'm saying? We have to go and like dive into that, and we have to know about them. And a lot of them are painful. It's hard to hear about your brothers hurting your brothers. Like, that sucks, especially when you're like really inspired about something. Like, you heard that they stabbed each other in the back and this and that. It's like, it's not the part of history we want to know, but we learn from that stuff. We learn so much from it. So, yeah. I'm going to pass the mic just because we are capturing audio, and I want all of y'all.
What up? You ain't see me? Yeah. I had a comment, and then I wanted to go back to Chelsea's question. This comment is going back to the sword fight, if that's okay. I want to ask your permission first. Is that okay?
Yes.
You sure? Okay, cool.
Yes.
Well, yeah, for sure. I think for me, just to say it really, really plain, you know, and I'm hoping to say this without pushback, you know what I'm saying, or to not start a debate, but I do want to introduce this to the ring. I think that it's important to understand. I think like there's definitely value in this idea that like I'm a rapper, you know what I'm saying? So there's like a type of way you have to present your art in order to be accepted in the mainstream. Like we like all the people talking about shooting and killing and blah, 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 blah. But I think what's super valuable to think about is when I think about a Sexy Red, I see an image that has been shitted on for years, you know what I'm saying, that is being embraced publicly because finally it's acceptable now, you know what I'm saying? And I see a lot of black women who are extremely intelligent doing a lot of extremely amazing work who love Sexy Red. And I think that there's so much value in that because it's like we're looking at a person purely be themselves on a high main pedestal, main stage, when 20 years ago, that person wouldn't be even allowed in the rooms that they're in the music business, in the arts scene, things like that. And that person is purely being themselves. We're talking about a young black woman from St. Louis, Missouri, one of the most dangerous cities in the country. And this person is making consistently good music that is being accepted by millions of people. And I don't care what other races think of Sexy Red. I think if black women love Sexy Red, that's all we need to be concerned with. And they love her. And I think that that's the most important thing to think about. And I think the argument or the ideology that this person is like tap dancing for an agenda is so disrespectful to the individual that it's about.
So, no, I got one thing. No, for real.
And And no, I really don't want to have it. We can talk about it afterwards. If
Well,
I'm down
then
with
we
that.
should move on then. If I can't say
No,
nothing.
the
Because
whole
it's unfair.
No, it's not towards
to
you,
introduce
though.
so many new things. Because I want to respectfully respond to what you're saying. Because what you're saying makes absolute sense, right?
Yeah.
And here's what I'm gonna say.
Yeah.
Who is the most skyrocketing portion of society right now? Getting the most education, doing the most things for society right now. If you look it up.
I don't know any answers to the things you're going to ask.
You should. It's black women.
Okay.
So what the enemy has to do.
Yeah,
You understand?
Yeah.
No, I don't. Create another image to degrade because black women are doing the most incredible work right now.
Yeah.
Most degrees, highest educated, getting the best jobs. You know this, or you said you didn't. Let me tell you. So I'm watching the enemy operate at the highest level it can.
Yeah.
All you guys doing all this? Let me stop your trajectory.
Yeah, but so
Let
to
me
you,
create-
brother. The thing for me, hold on. The thing for me is I saw. Wait, let me finish, please.
I
saw a woman speaking.
Yeah.
And didn't get a chance to even hear the other panelists answer Chelsea's question. And I think that for me, it is important to bring something into the ring that says, like, let's reel it in a little bit and be even in the energy that we're putting into the space as men who hold a much higher hierarchical power with the way that misogyny and patriarchy works. And so for me,
I understand
and hold on,
what
let
you're
me
saying.
let me finish. And so for me, I think that if a black woman is saying, hey, like, can we keep certain conversations amongst us? That's a thing to consider. And then if this conversation goes so far that Emma, the other panelist, doesn't even get to answer the original question that it started from, I think that's a problem. And so, like I said, after my sentence, I wanted to hear Emma's answer to Chelsea's question.
Yeah, well, we have
and
a
so
moderator.
Can I
we
hear
have
that?
a moderator. You understand? And I'll pass the mic. You have a moderator.
Word.
Well, I would say your question was about self-worth and the internet. Yes, I would say that I'm older than time and that I was very lucky to establish most of my career before social media really got popping like that. And I be keeping my head down. I watch like 6 people's things. You're one of them, Chelsea. Because I don't want, like, I don't know. The influence of the internet, it causes a lot of self-doubt, a lot of questioning. And I think it's really not for us to be taking in so much stuff all day, every day. It doesn't help anybody. So I really try to, I turned off all notifications on my phone. If, I'm gonna see it if I go there. You know what I mean? I really try to have a healthier relationship with social media so that it really doesn't determine my worth. For better or for worse. For better or for worse, but yeah.
Does anybody have any more questions? Come on, can we make some noise for y'all? I do want to highlight, I'm big on courageous conversations. I appreciate you so much, sister, for real. Brother, I appreciate you so much. I want to highlight, again, I started off with saying that we're not all here to agree with each other. In so many spaces, they would highlight something like that, and they would say, they're going to fight, or like we're automatically not able to create a relationship amongst ourselves as a culture. So allow this to be the stepping stone for us to understand each other more, because I went from overly agreeing to like, oh, y'all spin right now. You get what I'm saying? I overly understand and I agree. You get what I'm saying? So that's crazy. And I needed to hear you say that, bro. Come on. So, and I still want to have more conversation. Do you get what I'm saying? Like I'm driven to understand it even more. So something that I love so much about our people, something I love so much about us changing the narrative as well. So again, I appreciate y'all so much. And if you haven't yet, take an opportunity to look through the gallery, talk to the artists, check out their artwork if you haven't. We can have really great, courageous cultural conversation.
Do you think,
We'll understand.
you understand? So do you think the angle that our peoples did face for the political aspect, like them trying to like without, if the laws was never pushed in the way how the enforcement was pushing the laws amongst our people, do you think if we would have stood away from them, like trying to know what the laws was, we still would be in good shape right now as we speak?
So, can I
your question is if we didn't get so deeply involved in politics, would we be better off? Is that your question? No, I don't think that we'd be better off. And if anything, I think that we should be more involved on a local level. And I think that, you said it earlier, erasing history or pushing back history. What they don't tell you is how actually deeply politically involved people were in the 60s and 70s that actually got things to move, and in the 50s as well. There's a lot of local organizations that moved a lot of things. Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, when they not have been able to move the way they moved, had there not been local political organizations helping them to do that. So we need more political involvement. So yeah, I think that I might say we'd be better off. We'd be more aware and have more ability to change the system in the way we need it to change easier if we were more politically involved.
For me, I truly believe, have you ever heard, like, I've heard so many people say this, like, I'm not finna vote, that shit don't matter. My votes don't count.
Yeah.
For me, it happens heaviest in my community, like amongst my people. It's an agreement that we've made amongst ourselves. And as I dive deeper into my political education, you learn that the system was created by white men with guns to protect themselves and their assets. And you look at today, and a lot of us, we reference this system as a broken system. It's not a broken system. It's actually doing exactly what it was built to do, built by white men with guns to protect themselves and their assets. It does not talk about our people, not one time in that the mission statement. So do I feel if we were less politically involved, would we be in a better place? Absolutely not. I don't believe we even had the idea of getting politically involved for so long. We've had examples. Again, when we talk about the civil rights movement, we see how we understood how much we can change when we control an economic portion, right? And as the Black caucus, as the Black community, we hold a lot of spending power, and we still disconnected. It's where the divided versus disconnected thing comes back into play. So for me, I feel, double click on what my brother says, we have to create this idea that it is attractive. And that's where I go back to Sexy Red. And I feel like they do a really good job. Like what you said, as a rapper, we got to present ourselves. I make music as well. I'm dropping an album in February called Poster Boy, and it speaks about a lot of this.
It's a good album.
Come on,
Dope, man.
But I know a lot of the songs on there, they're camouflaged. Very much like I'm talking about sliding on ops. And I'm really talking about who gonna slide for Huey P. Newton, Chairman Fred Hampton, and all the people who died for us to slide on each other. You get what I'm saying? But it's packaged enough for it to get through the doors. So it sounds like, you get what I'm saying? And maybe it just might get misunderstood just enough to be played in some other rooms full of my people, and they might be singing it and creating the conversation later. You get what I'm saying? So
I want to say something, because I want to tell you guys this too about these systems. And I learned this from it's a book called How Judges Think. It's a very important book in my life. It took a lot of the emotionality out of it for me. But long story short, systems don't age the way we age, right? If you start fighting for the legalization of marijuana in 1980, you didn't see that shit till when? 2020? When did weed get legal in Illinois? 2020? So let's say you saw this and you're Allen in 1985. This is bullshit. And you're just in the hood fighting for it with the people, organizing. You didn't even see any movement in that 2018, 2020, right? That's 40 years of your life. To the system, that was a week, right? So my point of bringing this up is not just to give you some metaphor, but to inspire you to continue your fight, because the fight isn't for you. It's for the next generation. You understand? And yeah, I learned that from that. So to go back to the political engagement, a lot of the stuff people were fighting for in 1996, because they saw the true crime bill, didn't manifest till 2019. And that's how, the system is like that on purpose, because they know you're gonna have a family eventually, you're gonna relax, get a job, you know what I mean? You still might vote the right way, but you're not out there in the streets with the signs, you're not politicking on the doors, you're not canvassing, because you're older, right? That's 40 years of your life You know what I mean? To the system, that's a week, right? Because
The
now,
Anti-Lynching Act just got passed like
Come
2
on.
years ago. Bobby Rush, that's crazy.
and how long? When did it start though? 19. You know what I mean? Like, so yeah. So political engagement is very important, and you have to have the foresight to say, I don't care what's happening. Like me, anytime Alan calls me to come to Crime Drought, have any of y'all been to Crime Drought? Crime Drought
Got
is
some
a
crime drought faces in here.
crime drought is a thought process that what if all crime stopped? What if criminals went on strike? How many people will be out of a job? Now, this sounds so foreign to the average person, right? But it gets deep. Really think about that, right? Think about that, but in 100 years from now, and it just was no crime. Not as if no one was offending, but if we didn't categorize half that shit as crime, because half that shit's not a crime anyway. He's fucking homeless. He's not on the street because he's an asshole. He's homeless. You know, what if we just address the homeless problem, address the educational problem, da-da-da-da. You got to think 100 years ahead, because that's what the system thinks like. Anyway, that's my political, you know.
All right, I'm going to take this last question.
It's got to be good. It's the last one.
Oh, two more questions?
Well, he kind of answered it. My question was going to be, so then, how would you define legacy, or what does legacy right now look for you? You kind of answered it, like the things that we are fighting for.
Yeah, well.
Or the things that they were fighting for back then, they're just getting passed now. So it's like up to us to fight for, like, what is the new issues, or maybe continuing the fight that they did for those laws or things that didn't get passed during their time. Like, we're fighting for it. And it may not get passed in our time of living. It may get passed 20 to 50 years from now, you know. So you kind of answered it already, so I'm just slapped my back.
Well, that is one of my goals, though, right? So I want to make, and this is one of my imaginary goals. You're an artist, right? Every artist has some delusional shit they want to happen. I don't give a fuck. I don't care who it is. Every artist is like, this is gonna be the new Mona Lisa. Like, I don't care who it is. They want their art to be. If you don't have that, then you're not gonna be creating at the highest level you can. So one of my goals as an artist is to make an art piece that gets the law changed, like, or I want to make an art piece so profound that somebody sees it and it's like, we got to do something about this. You understand? I want to have it connected to Alan's organization, and someone comes and says, who made this? Why did he make this? Who is he? Let's get in the room. Me, you, and Alan chop it up. We need to make Crime Drought a monthly thing in Chicago for the West Side, blah, 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 Garfield Park, whatever it is, right? So that is one of my motivations, is to get something, because the law's probably there. It ain't been finalized. Hopefully something I make will get it put in the stone. You get what I'm saying? So, yeah.
Okay, so my question really does kind of follow hers. But you also mentioned that, you mentioned that, you know, something, if marijuana was being legalized in 19, now we're only seeing like the effects in 20, 40 years from now. I'm a transplant from New Jersey. I've been here a year. I live on the north side of Chicago, which is creates some thoughts for me. It's just, I'll leave it there. But what I've learned a lot in the past year I've been here is creating a community and still working to do so. So if you're saying that something in our legal process can take 40 years, how can you motivate a person of today to be like, hey, really focus on this now. This is important, and like really focusing on, like, you may not see the grand picture right like next week, but how can you still motivate them to get involved today, so that like the greater good is really affected? Because I feel like me being a 29-year-old person, sometimes I hear that a lot of times. I'm like, yeah, we vote now because, you know, Trump ain't shit. Like, not because, yes, Trump ain't shit, but let's figure out so many other things that can make our community a better place. So how do I guess you like create a community to really get motivated today, and even though you may not see the fruits of your labor next week, but still getting them motivated to get involved? That may have been a ramble, but.
So my biggest thing is empowerment. I don't believe we have a violence problem. We have a value problem. A lot of our people, they don't value themselves. And if I don't value myself, why would I value someone that look like me, you know? So I feel our job as the elders, the next generation, is to truly empower them. Create spaces that amplify their voices, that allow them to be heard, accepted. And that's where I come up with my, like, we don't need to agree with each other, because I got shot so many times down in school. Like, nah, bro, you're wrong. Like, hey, little kid, sit down. And I was just a little black kid that was super hyper. despite what was going on at home, I'm just, you feel me, you come here to learn. Like, how you know I didn't just come to school for a safe space, for a safe place? This is rehab compared to the crib. Like, so I feel this is how we do that. We create, I call them programs. You know, it's not about, the fact that we have a basketball program. This is what I've been hearing a lot. We've been hitting a lot of roadblocks when it comes to funding the programs that are needed in our communities. And to the funders, it just looks like a bunch of niggas playing basketball. No, it's representation. It's having somebody that looks like me take time to show me that I matter. That like, it's not me dribbling the ball more than it is the conversation he had about, yo, how was your day today? Hey man, those shoes cool. Like, I had so many monumental moments. You feel me? We don't even understand how heavy some of those moments are. And it's as little as a conversation, a compliment. Better yet, a question. How are you feeling today? How you get that scratch on your shoulder? You get what I'm saying? Like, just little stuff. So I feel as like this next generation, we can do a lot by creating those spaces. And again, it could be as little as a conversation. We don't need no money for it. Yeah. But we can create those courageous conversations to talk about money. Absolutely. Because everybody's scared to talk about money. Nobody wants to ask for it. I'm shameless. I'm talking about my people hear me. I'll ask, hey, let me get $1. Let me get $10. Hey.
Dr. Umar.
I know you got $1 in your pocket too.
And quick, I just have one last thing to say, or two things about motivating, even though it's going to take 40 years. When I work with the kids, at least for me, at the end of the little programs I would do, I'm all about the mitigating or the lowering of other people's suffering. You understand? In real time right now. So whenever they have graduate programs I work with them in, I don't care about your grades. I don't care about your money. How are you actively, purposefully, and intentionally lowering other people's suffering around you, right? So that's how we do it in real time. That's my motivating factor, because that's what gets me to do what I need to do. And the last thing I want to say, there's this story. It's in this book, another book suggestion. Write this one down. All black people should read it. It's called A Social History of the American Negro. And they were trying to start a school. Now, this shit gets me up in the morning. This is what fucking wakes me up in the morning, okay? They're trying to start a school, right? And this is back 1920, 1930, right? So they got a back of a farm, right? They got like 6 or 7 school children. They need desks, they need all these other things. And as they get into the community meeting, I'm messing up some of the story, but there's a lady who says, she's an old lady. She used to be a slave, but she had got freed, obviously, but she was an old lady. She was a former slave. And she had nothing to contribute but 6 eggs. She had 6 eggs to contribute. And she went to the guy trying to make the school. She said, I can't do shit, but I got these 6 eggs for you for the kids, right? And that motivates me in real time, because it's like, even if we don't got the funding, even if we don't got the da-da-da-da-da, nigga, you got 6 eggs to contribute. Give what you can. We'll make it through. You know what I mean?
But I also think what he just said was so great. If y'all want to end it right there, that's, you know what I'm saying? I think it's in line with what both of you all just said, which is like this idea of, I think I just had a thought when you said the community thing, and anybody know who Shohei Ohtani is? So Shohei Ohtani is a baseball player from Japan who is like the LeBron James of baseball. He pitches and he hits like 40 home runs a year and like has the lowest ERA and the most strikeouts. It's like the most incredible shit ever. And he's only been in America for maybe 3-4 seasons. But yesterday he donated 60,000 baseball gloves to every elementary school student in Japan. And I think the 6 eggs thing reminds me of that, because when you were speaking about what those community things did for you, that resonated, because when I think about young people, you know what I'm saying, and like idle time is so, like, what happens in that idle time? And then when we're thinking, like, I had a friend who made a comment about like the gloves, and she was like, well, like, you know what? Why not give them like, you know, food or something like that? I was like, well, those students probably are not dealing with poverty. Like, Japan has a really, really good, you know what I'm saying, like, what's it? Yeah, socioeconomic, like, structure. Whereas like here, there are, but I'm like, what's more important is that baseball glove, even here, would have so much value because now I have something to kill my idle time. Now I have people to, like, you know what I'm saying? If, Shohei gave me a glove, that's like, you said it. I'm directly attached to somebody who looks like me for the rest of my life, and you planted a seed in me when I was a young person. And I think for me, your basketball was hip hop. Like I said, like I grew up off Stoney. So when Kanye said Common memories on corners, staying off Stoney and Cottage Grove, I instantly was like, oh, there's a black person that looks like me. I want to rap. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like I found a thing in that, and so I think that there's something about the current seed that also plants a seed for the future. Like if you give it to them while they're young, they see the value, like you said, and then now they're more motivated to be like, yo, even if it doesn't happen now, at least I'm going back and giving it to the next. And now 20 years later, if I'm here or not, that's making an impact. And I think those gloves made me think about that. And like we have to find our gloves or our eggs. And that was my thought, with what you said.
Come on.
Oh my God.
Yeah, y'all are spitting. I know we got more thoughts, and
So like going back to the political part, I think there's a difference to like going back to the part where I was saying about our people's failing of like hopping into the political field. One thing I really highlight that I appreciate about my people is there was like I don't think it was really into that political aspect, but like they have the people power. It's a difference between political power and people power. Oh, yeah. And they're really in that battle of like the political power and people power because they're going against funds and our people don't have funds, but they got the people. So every time we speak, we say the more people it is, it's a saying of like the more knowledge in people, the better. So it's a saying, so to speak, in the people power in a sort of way. But I think the political power, like again, just going back, like they have the funds to get rid of our people. Not people that have funds, but they have the people to support and show that strength of like. No matter how far y'all go, like our people don't show that aspect. So I still don't feel like hopping into that political field still was like a good input because like they just show like we bear none, like revolutionaries. This is what we stand for. They're saying like we're just protecting our people, not saying like the laws that y'all pushing, but they was pushing the laws to get rid of our people. But our people's like, this is not how you can get rid of our people. And through that aspect, they were saying we need our people to show input on like. This is what we disagree with. We ain't gonna have to come into our community to where it is. Once I have to say with money. Like I don't want our people to wake up every day and say, hey, I need to get money. If we can change that aspect of getting money, because again, going back to the political, that governor sort of feel to that political aspect. And if we take away that governor and going back to people, if there's none of this, then it's gonna always be the same. The people, if that makes sense. But I ain't knocking what you're saying. I just feel like it's going to always push us to strive for something, and that's something that we're striving for, something that we want, and that's what we're trying to do.
either we do it or they do it, and we not gonna like how they do it. Period. That's my brother Mashawn. All right, we gonna wrap up, and I want to have more conversation. I'm gonna open up this room in the back. It's called Trap House Chicago. It's one of my mentors, my brothers, my peers. It's a lot of cultural conversations on these shirts, and again, I would love to have more conversation with y'all. I feel like we just learned so much about each other, so much about the artwork around here. And if you guys don't yet, please get to know each other. Follow the artists, just Qyjon the Icon and the Stitchgawd Dog. Okay. And one more time, can we make some noise for each other, man? Again, my name is Chairman Allen. I appreciate y'all for the exchange of energy. Love, love, love. I'm gonna play some music and yeah, go check out some of the vendors as well. We got Shantoni Designs in the back, Final Five in the back. Come on. Circles and ciphers. Let's go.
I said we're going to go see your art.
You sit up front.